Tia Johnson. Here. Brian Nichols.
Here.
Amy Levy. Here. Greg Schneider.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we, in the interest of time tonight, because we've got a couple of probably closed sessions, that we move future meeting dates 6A to become number 5A in front of the human resources, and human resources becomes 6, and executive session remains 7, and meeting closing 8.
Okay, a motion with movement of the future board meeting dates.
I'll second.
Motion by Brian Nichols with the change and seconded by Megan Miller. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And tonight, for the Pledge of Allegiance,
we have Mrs. Brandy Herford representing our Merrill Elementary School, and she also has a student, and I will let her do the introductions.
Good evening, Brandy Herford, Merrill Elementary School. All right, there we go. Good evening. I have a loud voice, so I really don't need a mic, but I will use one. Brandy Herford, principal at Merrill Elementary School. I'm here introducing Analia. She has been at Merrill since I've been there, so kindergarten, so maybe even before then. Analia is such a leader. She is a member of Student Council. She is also the vice president of the House of Amistad. That is our red house at Merrill. She also is very much into math, and so she does a lot of small groups with me, and we work on her Imagine Math, and she's always looking for me to do that. So she is a real true reader and a learner and a leader at Merrill. So I'll let her go ahead and go. Analia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Herford and Amalia. We really appreciate that. That brings us to public comment. Ms. Shope, do we have any public comments for tonight?
I do. I have quite a few here in the room, and then I have 6 emails.
Okay. From Board Policy 187, public participation at board meetings. The speakers will be announced and invited to the podium by the board secretary, Michelle Shope. Each person will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Should the individual require translation assistance, a translator may be of the individual's choosing or one provided by the district. Public comments requiring translation will be given 6 minutes. An individual's 3 minutes may be yielded to another individual. However, each person must complete a public comment card. Indicate if speaking or yielding time. Give the public comment card to the board secretary and approach the microphone to state your name, and that the 3 minutes are being yielded to another individual. An individual may speak on behalf of a group. However, no more than 2 other people may yield his, her, or their time to any one speaker. Individuals wishing to comment are expected to comply with the following norms in order to maintain a respectful and orderly meeting and to prevent discussion of confidential matters in a public forum. Comments should be directed to members of the Board of Education and not district employees, students, or other members of the public in attendance at the meeting. Signage, banners, or other material which impedes any person's view of the proceedings shall be relocated. Speech that is belligerent, disorderly, disruptive, repetitive, or which exceeds the allowable time permitted for each speaker is prohibited. Concerns or questions that entail the disclosure of identifying information regarding specific students are prohibited. Response from the board, if any, will be limited to clarifying inaccurate information, seeking additional information from the speaker, or acknowledging that the speaker has been understood. The board will not debate with an individual, and the board may not take action on an item raised during public comment that is not on the meeting notice or agenda. The chair will interrupt and rule an individual who violates any of these norms out of order. If ruled out of order by the chair, the individual's opportunity to address the board will end immediately and the microphone will be turned off. Thank you for your participation and courtesy. Michelle, who's our first speaker tonight?
Our first speaker is Patricia.
Where do I go? My name is Patricia Zodi, and I live in the city of Beloit. I'm here to let the Board of Education know that I truly enjoyed the listening session on Wednesday, June 12, 2024. As a person who voted in support of the referendum, I learned a great deal about the reasons the referendum failed in April. I believe strongly that these listening sessions should be continuing throughout our community before any decisions are made about writing a new referendum and putting it on a ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz.
Our next speaker is Susan.
I'm Susan Adams. I want to comment on the referendum. I'm from Beloit. I see the referendum is on the agenda for discussion/action. I hope it will just be discussion and that you'll wait to vote until after you have more information. I'm glad there were 4 members of the board at the listening session last week, and I believe more board members need to hear from many in our community, so I think it's too early to vote on when to have the referendum. At the listening session, President Tia Johnson said she'd work with the communications department on ways to make sure the superintendent and board get in front of a more diverse group for future sessions. I urge you to do town hall type meetings that allow the board and the staff to answer questions community members have and not limit community members to merely stating opinions without getting answers to any questions. If you do answer questions right away and we all get to hear the answers and we all save time as well, and hopefully there'd be less misinformation out on social media, because social media is not the best place to receive one's information. I think in these meetings it needs to be clear which programs were cut already and which ones would be cut if this doesn't pass. So clearly money does make a difference in how well a school district can operate, and you cannot make improvements without money, same as your personal budget. Anyway, it's seriously hampered by a lack of money. I think it should be, I would vote for November, but I'm going to vote for it no matter when you have it. But it's a presidential election, so there's more people that are going to vote. Of course, we do need them to be well educated. And most people at the listening session, especially those who spoke, were for the referendum, so do it soon. Do it when most people are voting. And number 3, if we do have the vote in November and it passes, then the money would presumably be able to be used earlier than if it passed in April. So I think there's plenty of time for these town hall type sessions prior to a November ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz.
Next, we have Tommy Brickle.
Is this still on? Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Tommy Brickle. I live in the city of Beloit. I know that recently there's been some debate in the community on which flags are flown here at central office. So I come to you tonight not as a district administrator, but as a citizen, a proud Purple Knight alum, and a proud gay man. Growing up before gay straight alliances were even founded in our public schools, I knew at a young age that representation was critical to showing young people that their identities were valid and that they were safe and supported in their schools and communities. Thankfully, even without the representation back in the late 80s and 90s when I attended, I had a tremendous amount of teachers and a family who supported me. Not every student has that privilege. Therefore, I think it's necessary that our public institutions step up and continue to show their ongoing support for some of the most vulnerable and marginalized communities, especially here in Beloit. Representation and support saves lives, and that is why I'm able to still be here in front of you tonight, and that's not easy for me to say. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tim, and I have Jennifer and Anthony who are yielding their 3 minutes, so it'd be 9 minutes total.
Well, thank you very much, and I do hope I don't take all 9 minutes, but it's really a pleasure to be here. It's nice of the board to be willing to have a discussion of the Grow Your Own program and how it's had some attacks, shall we say, in recent times. So I thank you for holding this session. I want to thank the board for your service. I was on the Janesville School Board for a while, so I know what you do, and I admire you for that. What we need to do, I believe, and I maybe should give one more side note. I started a program in Janesville very similar to Grow Your Own. It's called the Janesville Multicultural Teacher Scholarship. And when I started it, 99.5% of the teachers in Janesville were white, and about 16% of the students were students of color. That's 16% is now 32%. It's going to 40, and the teachers are now from 0.5% to 6%. So it's taken us longer than we thought to get going. But we've got 20 students, scholarship winners in college next fall, freshman through senior year. So we're going to start cranking. The main thing, I think this kind of program, Grow Your Own, ours over in Janesville, is that it's really intended to help the students be successful after high school. And one of the ways they're going to be successful in a justice society is it helps them a lot if they have a teacher who doesn't look like them. Both ways, that a white student has a teacher of color, that a teacher of color has a white student. It's just important because, especially if you're white and you don't have a teacher of color, hardly ever, and you get into your first job and your first supervisor is a person of color, you have no experience and gotten to know somebody well like you do in the classroom. So I think that's a really big part of this, is to help the students be successful when they get out of high school. And it's also important to note that both our program and your program are 100% privately funded. The scholarships do not have 1 penny of public money involved in them. And I think that can get mixed up with some of this criticism here, but I think that's important that be very, very clear. And I helped at your folks' request. I helped start Grow Your Own because we already had something like that going in Janesville, and I am a big supporter of Grow Your Own. In fact, I've never said this publicly ever, that I give $5,000 of my own money every year to Grow Your Own, and I'll keep doing that. In fact, I got a book coming out next month on gerrymandering, and I've always given the proceeds from that book to Janesville's Multicultural Teacher Scholarship. But I'm pleased to tell you tonight that when this book comes out, 50% is going to go to each one of the programs, 50% to Janesville School District and 50% Janesville multicultural teacher scholarship and 50% to grow your own. So that will hopefully help get some more money. And it's also fun touting that book because I don't put any money in my own pocket. That makes it a little bit more comfortable. And so I'm looking forward to that. But I think another thing I think is worth pointing out is the United States that these students are going to live in is going to be the most racially diverse United States in our history. In 2040, the prediction is that for the first time in American history, white people will be the majority of the different colors, but they'll be less than 50% for the first time ever. And so that tells me that even more so that these students growing up today need to be ready to be successful and be accepting of that world that they're going to live in. So I wanted to make that point as well. I think all that, I think that really basically tells me what I wanted you to know. I love Beloit. I told a few people tonight, when I ran for the state senate the first time in 1974, 50 years ago, I would not have won if people of Beloit hadn't cast so many votes for me. They had gerrymandered Janesville out of the district, my hometown. But I was hoping Beloit would vote for me 65%, and I would have a chance, because the rest of it was Walworth County and Western Racine County and so on. And rather than Beloit voting for me 65%, they voted for me 73%, and I had a chance to win. So I've never forgotten that, and I just want to mention that. But thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. Michelle?
Next, I have Margarita, and Patty yielded her 3 minutes, so 6 minutes total.
Greetings to the board, their guests, and audience. I would like to start by presenting some numbers. The first one is the gap between white students and minority students, which is 20% in the scores. This is nationwide, no, Wisconsin-wide. In Beloit is the state testing of minority students is about 10% over that of the minority students. The white students are 10% higher. The most appealing part is that these numbers had been going on for decades, and this gap has not changed much. I was a member of a school board committee, and they consider this unacceptable. These numbers going on for decades the same way. So they asked themselves, why not do something about it? So there was a thought process started. According to higher authorities in the field of education and learning, the top contributing factors to the monstrous gap a school could address to chip away this gap is the sense of belonging in school and the role models that they could identify with, the students can identify with. Another piece of information is that according to nationwide statistics, Beloit has 68% minority students and only 18% minority teachers. And numbers are similar nationwide. Teachers are the key The key to a school atmosphere, a sense of acceptance and belonging. They are also role models. If you key in your search engine the words impact on children's school performance, having a teacher the similar ethnicity and or native language, you will get thousands of results, all of them agreeing of the impact not only on school performance, but also in outlook of life, self-image, not engaging in risky behaviors, choices, continuing their education, not engaging in early sexual activity or pregnancy. A group of people here in Deloitte took the initiative with creativity and innovative ideas, based on studies that show that having role models of their own background and yes, skin color, they could do better. The students could do better. So the group Grow Your Own started. They envision a community where children grow and succeed, where children are accepted, feel accepted, and have a role models that encourage them. GYO wanted to start making dents in the invisible wall that they knew existed beyond most of minority children's view. GYO did not have a penny in budget, no staff to start with that dream. So with a handful of people, like Jack in the Beanstalk with their three little beans, GIY started. It started to cultivate a little program that you see now with only $41,000 to operate this year, and no staff, just a handful of volunteers that like them want a community of happy children educated on equal ground where success does not have skin pigmentation, where we have a workforce with a basic and solid education they have received by caring faculty in welcoming schools. The WIL organization comes here telling us they address discrimination, injustice, and reinforcement of equality. Really? Isn't obvious inequality what the numbers reflect? Isn't it unjust that children are defeated before the end of their basic education or high school? We have been failing our children. We will think that an institution like will have addressed the monstrous gap that exists, but instead they can't pointing their finger at us, to a little group with a minute budget and threat with litigation, bully us so we change or else. Well, dear WIL organization, you say that the Supreme Court truly repudiates the desire of racial balance between teaching staff and students. What kind of justice is that? What kind of justice do you practice? To close, I want to remind everybody here that slavery was illegal. Child labor was legal. Women vote was not legal, neither their ownership of property. The people that stood up and protested, they were taught to be wrong. Today we know they were right. They just were fighting a world that did not longer fit. And today we know they were raped. Thank you, GWO, I'm sorry. Thank you to all of those that stand up against injustice. Thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you. Michelle, next.
Next, I have Mario, and Paula yielded her 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mario Flores. If you guys already know me. Being a part of the LGBTQ community has never been easy, but with the inclusion that the school district has brought, and specifically Beloit Learning Academy, I personally had the best experience as a queer student. I can only speak on the behalf of Beloit Learning Academy because I only went there for 2 years, and that's the only thing I can remember. I have gained the respect and the love from so many teachers and students at BLA. I have always felt welcome and valued by the entire environment they have provided. I'm here to inspire other members of the LGBTQ community and to encourage people to be themselves, always. Don't let anyone stop you from being who you are, even if it's your own family. Thankfully, the district has made me feel included. I'm appreciative of what the school offers and how the LGBTQ community is represented here. I am proof that no matter what you are or what you want to be, you can be successful and that your dreams can become reality. I want to say a special thanks to all the staff at Beloit Learning Academy who have supported me and encouraged me to push forward. Lastly, I want to say, although some of the older generation still doesn't understand what our people are or what we come from and all the struggles that we have, that we, myself, and the LGBTQ community are heartwarming and sweet people, and I hope that you guys can eventually become educated, get educated on our culture, and that we aren't the quote-unquote monsters that people portray us to be. Lastly, I want to say that just thank you for everyone that is listening to me. I want to encourage a lot of younger people that are obviously not out yet, and remember that some things that you do say and you do could impact your family and your life and can be making one of your family members take two steps back instead of you pushing them 2 steps forward. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I have Kelly.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kelly Gorwood, the Director of Instructional Leadership in STEAM for the district, and I am here tonight to also speak in support of the Pride flag, and just to say thank you for making sure that it is flying outside our building. To some, a flag might seem like an insignificant symbol, but the flag is a symbol of inclusion. In organizations like ours, especially public organizations, symbols can bring energy, they convey meaning and messages, and they can express an openness to bring people into our community in their full and authentic selves. The Pride flag that flies outside this building conveys a message that we as a district embrace wholeheartedly our DEI mission. That we embrace that statement and we are proud of the diversity because it is our diversity that brings us strength. That we support all of our students, our families, and staffs from all walks of life. As an ally of the LGBTQIA+ community, and as a family member of some very amazing LGBTQ individuals, this flag is not just a random symbol outside the building, it is very personal to me. For me, it's a symbol that means that my friends, my coworkers, my family, and that I belong in this community. And I'd like to continue to belong in this community. It allows us to be authentically ourselves within the Beloit community and as a part of SCB. Our strength in this district is our diversity. And I'm proud that as a district, as an organization, we embrace that diversity. So again, I want to say thank you, and I sincerely hope that that flag will continue to fly in the years to come. I am Beloit proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more, Michelle?
Yes, next I have Jen. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that she has Melanie and Anita, who have both yielded their 3 minutes, so she has a total of 9.
I have 9 minutes, so I have a water bottle. Good evening, Board President Johnson, Superintendent Garrison, Board of Education, and those here and watching online. My name is Jen Papke, and I am an educator in the School District of Beloit. I'm wrapping up my 12th year in the district and my 27th year in education. In my career, I have had the opportunity to work in 3 very diverse districts: the Albuquerque Public Schools, the Delavan Darien School District, and here in the School District of Beloit, where I hope to retire in the next 10 to 15 years. Working in such diverse districts, I have done a great deal of reflection on my limited experiences as a white woman raised in a predominantly white community, attending primarily white schools. From early on in my career, I recognized that in order to best serve my students, I had to get to know myself, and I had to get to know who they were, learn about their culture and background, and open myself to learning about experiences that I never had before. What hasn't been diverse in my experience is looking around at my colleagues. I have worked with primarily white women, people who had positive school experiences in their past and who were generally successful in schools. I am not naive to think that all of my white friends and schoolmates had great school experiences, but I have been afforded much unearned privilege throughout my life that I wouldn't begin to see until I collected more experiences. As I worked with Native American, Black, Hispanic, Asian, and multiracial children, I recognized that my perspectives and my experiences were just one source of information, and it would be important for my students to have experiences with multicultural staff members. This thought was brought into the spotlight when I heard that Senator Tim Cullen was interested in supporting staff in Beloit who wanted to start the Grow Your Own Multicultural Teacher Scholarship Program. The Grow Your Own team consisted of district leadership and Beloit Education Association teachers who were passionate about the research they had read and found on the importance of students having a variety of teachers, especially with teachers of the same racial and cultural background as them. I was excited to become a part of this committee about 10 years ago, and we took the ideas brought forth and ran. So I'd like to focus tonight on our scholarship recipients to date, and I've had the chance to stay in contact with each of them. They've been so appreciative of the opportunity to receive this scholarship and so grateful to our donors. My math might be a little off here, but in around 2017, Stephanie, does that seem about right? 2017, 2018, we offered our first scholarship. Unfortunately, the student changed majors, kind of like I did, and so he did not continue on with the program, but our next student, Evelyn Rodriguez, graduated from Beloit Memorial High School, completed her degrees at Black Hawk Tech and UW-Whitewater, and now will begin her 3rd year teaching in the DLI program at Todd Elementary. Karen Soto received a scholarship, graduating from Beloit Memorial and then Beloit College, and is currently in graduate school pursuing her school counseling degree. Jaden Bell just graduated from Rockford University. He is starting right back up in the fall as a graduate student studying kinesiology and elementary education and would like to teach Phi-Ed. Next up, we have Azaria Roby, succeeding in year 1 at UW-Whitewater, and our first staff recipient, Victoria McAllister, who works full-time at BMHS, as well as completing her bachelor's degree at Concordia University. And finally, I look forward soon to bring you this year's scholarship recipients so that I can introduce them to you. But let's celebrate Maya Matthews from BMHS, who is headed to Jackson State in the fall, and Aldrich staff member Linda Garza, who's working on her bachelor's at UW Superior. These 6 Grow Your Own Multicultural Teacher Scholarship recipients look forward to returning to the school district of Beloit for their career, and I hope that you will consider the value that this scholarship brings to our students of color. We are looking to bring our staff diversity a little closer every year to our student diversity. So right now we have about 18% minority teachers and 68% minority students. We can and must do better. And while education is losing the large pools of candidates that we once upon had a time for each vacancy, scholarships like this can make college attainable. 100%, as Tim said, of our scholarship comes from donations. No school district money goes into the scholarships. I would estimate at last review that about 10 to 15% of our district staff make donations into the scholarship program. Every little bit makes a difference in growing this scholarship. Senator Cullen has remained a partner and a strong donor to our program every year and is passionate about not just donating, but being a part of meetings, being present with us, and being an idea guy. So thank you for that. Board, I know that this is a matter that's beyond us and for a legal team to make a determination, but I hope that as representatives of our district, you hear how much this program means to us. Thank you. Now, I'm not done. I'm going to change my hat and take on one other important topic to me. So outside this window, we are flying the progressive pride flag. The progressive pride flag was an update to the original pride flag developed to represent LGBT people to further encompass transgender folks, people of color, and so many more identities that people have. In 2021, I purchased this flag and randomly asked the superintendent at the time to consider flying it, and he made my wish come true. But it wasn't just my dream. It was the dream of hundreds of SDB students, SDB staff, and SDB family members, community members, and members of queer supportive organizations in our area, that they would be seen, recognized, and valued. I was even asked at the time to write a blog about it, and to sum up what I wrote at that time, it's about my goals as an educator, to nurture, develop, create, and inspire spaces where everyone feels a sense of belonging and safety. So tonight, I have another flag. I present to you, Dr. Garrison, since Ms. Christopa's not here, a Juneteenth flag, and I'm not sure that we can get it up before tomorrow's holiday, but I'd like to offer to continue the tradition by buying additional Cultural Heritage and Recognition Month flags to be flown for times like Hispanic Heritage Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, Black History Month, and more. I look forward to connecting with you and with Ms. Christopa if the board is willing to take me up on this offer. Flying a flag or showing support to a group of historically marginalized people represented here in our district is not meant to exclude anyone. It is to help us all recognize the beauty that is among us in our diversity. As one of our district mottos says, Beloit is strengthened by diversity. In the end, I'm simply Beloit proud. I hope that all of our students, staff, and families can feel that pride and let love be louder. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Stephanie R. and Melissa yielded her time, so it'll be 6 minutes.
Good evening, board members and guests here today. I also am going to discuss two things. Tonight, I would like to start out with the pride flag that has been, there's been a lot of discussion about. I'm standing here in front of you right now as a proud sister of a gay brother and a lesbian sister. Two members of my family are in that group right there, and I have grown up with this all of my life and have had to deal with a lot of different prejudices. So I understand right now the significance of pride for our LGBTQ students. As we celebrate Pride Month, it's crucial that we recognize why pride matters beyond just colorful parades and flags. For LGBTQ students, Pride is more than just a word, it's a lifeline. It's about embracing one's identity despite societal pressures and prejudices. It's about feeling safe and supported in our schools, our homes, and our community. It's about being seen and being accepted for who they truly are without fear of discrimination. Imagine navigating a world where your very existence is questioned or marginalized. For many LGBTQ students, this is a daily reality. They face higher rates of bullying, mental health challenges, and even homelessness due to rejection from their families. In such circumstances, pride becomes a beacon of hope for them, a reminder that they are not alone and that identity is something that they should celebrate and never hide. Pride empowers LGBTQ+ students to stand tall and embrace their authenticity. It fosters a sense of belonging and community, offering them a space where they can connect with others who share similar experiences. It encourages them to pursue their dreams and ambitions without compromising who they are. Moreover, Pride promotes an education and awareness. It challenges harmful stereotypes and promotes inclusivity in schools and in society at large. By fostering this culture of acceptance and respect, we can create safe environments where all students can thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. As we commemorate Pride Month, let us reaffirm this commitment in our community to supporting these LGBTQ+ students. Let us advocate for positive policies that will protect their rights and ensure equal opportunities. Let us educate ourselves and others about the challenges that they face and the contributions that they can make to our community. That flag is a symbol that we as Beloit educators and our community are supporting these students. Please, please do not take that flag down. And as Ms. Papke suggested, let's put up some other ones so that we can show that we embrace everyone and we don't discriminate against all. The second thing that I would like to speak to you about is the GYO scholarship. Many people do not know, but I was on the original committee with Senator Cullen in Janesville. I was lucky enough to be on that committee when that program first began. And when I came to Beloit 10 years ago, the first thing I did was talk to Steve McNeil about bringing that program down here to Beloit, because Beloit was a more diverse community than Janesville, and I could not understand why this was not something that these people down here in Beloit were thinking about or talking about. And so that conversation with Steve McNeil led us to conversations with Doc Williams and Dr. Bond when they were here, and luckily they embraced it, and Senator Cullen was gracious enough to come down and help us get the program started. And as Jen said, we've had a lot of successful graduates with this program. This is something that I believe in as an educator, and I do think that it's an important thing for our students to see. And as Jen said, none of our time, all of our interviews are done outside the school day. All of the work that we do for the program is done outside the school day. We rely on donations. Nothing is taken from the school district or the taxpayers. So I really am urging you to look at that program and keep that program going, because it is something that's very valuable to us in this district. So thank you for your time.
Next, I have Stephanie S.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Stevens. I reside here in Beloit. I'm a proud product of the Beloit School District. I'm going to date myself. I went to Waterman. I went to Aldridge. And actually, Tia went to Waterman with me years ago. And I graduated from Beloit Memorial in '87. My husband graduated in '85. My father was graduated in 1952, and our children graduated from the school district in 2011, 2013, and 2019. So we have 3 generations of school district of Beloit students and graduates in our family. I am also, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work for the school district for 23 years as an educator. I worked at McNeil for 22 years, and this past year I had the opportunity to go over to Merrill, which has been a wonderful kind of feel too, but like McNeil, it's wonderful. Why did we have wonderful experiences here in Beloit? It was because of the educators and the administrators that we had. My husband and I and our generation, our next generation, our children. Me and my husband had some of the best. Barb Hickman, Sally Adams, Booker Street, Mr. Gupton. And our children were blessed to have Audrey Gentry, or some people called her Audrey Vaughn, Paris Eccles, Brandy Herford, Amanda Celine, and Michelle Hendricks Sonora also, as those are some of their past educators. What do they all have in common? They have talent, dedication, determination, and they are all persons of color. They all have enriched my family's life. And I don't want to see this stop in Beloit schools. We need this diversity in the workforce here at SDB. We need to mirror our children. Our students need to see themselves in professional roles. Approximately 76 educators, although the 459 educators that we have here in the school district are minorities. That's 17% of our educators being people of color, while our minority rate with school district is approximately 68% of our population is persons of color students. Grow Your Own Scholarship Program, who I financially have helped support over the years, is a great way to continue to help this effort of helping support Growing Our Own to come back to Beloit here in the SDB. Do not let the negativity of certain groups stop this wonderful scholarship opportunity here at the school district of Beloit. I tell my students each and every day at school at Merrill, show me your greatness. So today I'm asking you to show me your greatness, and I plead with you, I encourage you to please continue with the Grow Your Own Scholarship Program. Thank you.
Next, I have Tracy.
Greetings to everyone here. Thank you for having public comments. I'm speaking to you on the topic of the Pride Flag. As a Turner graduate, I made a purposeful decision for my kids to go to Beloit Memorial and all Beloit schools until my gay son didn't feel comfortable at Beloit Memorial and transferred to Parker. In addition, they do 2 musicals a year, so that was a thing. So I have been a parent. I'm a former district employee, although now I work at Parkview because I like little people, and I'm white. Wasn't going to talk about that, but I feel like making space here, maybe. It's important for our kids to see other people and have that experience, so grow your own. I am also the vice president of the Yellow Brick Road organization in Beloit, and we support Rock County in LGBTQ+ inclusion efforts, and just making sure that that visibility and inclusion is present. I want to say that visibility is one thing. It can mean tolerance, but when you take something down that is supposed to be a celebration, that sends a really loud message that there is not acceptance. And many people today have pointed out that diversity includes all kinds of different people. So please, I humbly ask, keep the pride flag up. Love the idea for more flags. I just wanted to say just a couple more things, what pride and visibility does for students in school districts. It can help them learn about the other students, learn about and respect the diversity of people and families in the world, and it helps them promote acceptance. It makes the representation can help students feel like they're not alone and can encourage positive mental health, very important to school. And when they feel safe, being out to more peers at school can be associated with higher grades, less harassment, and seeing peers who are out can be associated with a sense of safety, even if they're not out themselves. Having a welcoming environment, which includes pride flags and other symbols, is important for students and students of color who may experience a lot of other discrimination in school. If you do nothing else tonight, hopefully, you'll keep the pride flag up. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And I have one last person in the room, Pam.
Okay, well, everyone's speaking about what they're passionate about, so I'm going to talk about what I'm passionate about. I was looking at the website today, and I saw a tab for family exit surveys. And I know that our enrollment is constantly going down, and I'm wondering, why aren't we seeing these family exit surveys? Is anyone completing them? And if they are they being tallied? Are they being brought to the board? Because if they were, I missed from staff or families about how they feel about the district and what we can do to make it better. And how can we make it better if we don't have that input? So I would ask you all to consider bringing that to a board meeting, please, if the data is there. I want to talk about budget cuts. Several school-level budget cuts were brought to a meeting a few weeks back, and they all affect teachers and classrooms and programs. And I didn't hear one board member saying, wait. So I'm lost. I know a lot of other people are lost. And a lot of teachers are asking, how are these cuts being made? If they come in a presentation from the administration to the board, does that mean it's a done deal? Does that mean those cuts are done? Because it seems like it, because choir at Aldridge was cut. You can't sign up for it next year. So that cut has been made, and I did not hear a board vote on that. So we need to know how this is working. We need to know what if we have a voice in it, and if we don't, do the people that we elected have a voice in it? I just don't think that it should just be brought to the board as, something that gets rubber stamped and is already acted on. People are asking, is there going to be any kind of a committee formed? And I saw that there was something on tonight about a committee. It's not clear exactly if that's the committee that a lot of people are hoping for. But I do hope that the Finance Committee will hold meetings. I know that with this new, quote, board cadence, there aren't meetings going on now, which really seems horrible considering we have $10.8 million to cut. We need board meetings, and we need finance meetings now. And I hope the Finance Committee will appoint an ad hoc committee of qualified individuals to get together and really do a deep dive into our budget and to see what it is that we are cutting and what we should be cutting. Prioritize, just like we do with our home budgets. Prioritize and keep the kids first. Then that brings me to the last one, which is I've asked several board members to take a look at this, and it hasn't happened. But policy 672.1, it is fiscally irresponsible for us to have a policy that allows the administration to spend up to $100,000 as many times as they would like without board approval. This has to be changed. We have to get this under control. No administrator should be able to spend $100,000 of taxpayer money without board permission from the board. So I do hope that, that you'll take a look at this, and the fact that there's no aggregate. It could just go on every day. It's something that this board really needs to look at changing, is policy 672.1. I mean, you've heard a lot of important issues tonight, but I do hope that we can get the budget under control and get the focus back to what matters, which is student achievement. Our kids have to do better in school if they're going to do better in life. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz? That's all I have for in the room, and then I have the emails to be read. The first email I have is from Azaria. Hello, everyone. My name is Azaria. I am 19 years old and will be going into my second year of college at the University of Whitewater. Jen has asked me to speak on my behalf of receiving the Grow Your Own Scholarship. Winning this scholarship was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. The great thing about this scholarship is that it lasts all 4 years of college. It doesn't matter which college you go to. If it's a 4-year school, then you're set for those 4 years. The scholarship has really helped me with not having to pay out of pocket for certain things when it came to financial aid. My first year at Whitewater, I can say, was a little tough. When I was going through that rough time trying to figure it out, I wanted to stay at Whitewater or not. Jen was there to help and make sure that everything would work out with me personally and the scholarship altogether, and everything did actually end up working out. The people who organize this foundation are truly there to help and make sure you succeed and keep succeeding, and I realized that when I got the help earlier in the year, Grow Your Own was not the only scholarship I applied for, and it is definitely not the only scholarship out there in the world. When I went to the banquet to be acknowledged for getting it, there were so many other students out there that had applied and won. And when I say students, I mean there were students of all races getting the scholarship. Moral of the story, this foundation is not only focusing on staff or students of color or part of the minority group. These students and teachers have worked really hard to get nominated and then chosen for the scholarship, including myself. I hope my message has given the people who are against the program some sort of understanding. That's it.
Thank you. Next.
The next one is from Evelyn. And she says, "Good afternoon. I am Evelyn, recipient of the Grow Your Own Multicultural Scholarship. I am writing this email to express the gratitude I feel for the scholarship. I have a lot to thank the donors of this scholarship since I come from a low-income family. So thinking about going to school and obtaining a university degree was impossible since I did not have the money to go to the university. Thanks to the Grow Your Own Scholarship, my dream of going to school came true. For students who are in the same situation as me, this scholarship means a lot to us since it helps us financially, but also helps us realize our dreams of obtaining a university degree. Thanks to this scholarship, I obtained my bachelor's degree in early childhood education and in special education. And today, I am a bilingual teacher at Todd Elementary School, and I am very happy to be able to help my community and the students, preparing them to be successful." That's it. Next. I have a letter from the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism from Manuel. Dear school board members, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, known as FAIR, is a nonpartisan nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing civil rights and liberties and promoting a common culture based on fairness, understanding, and humanity. We have tens of thousands of members nationwide, including in Wisconsin. Our website, fairforall.org, can give you a fuller sense of our identity and activities. As a FAIR member and a parent within the Beloit Schools, School District Beloit, I write today in order to raise important considerations that must be accounted for in advance of the upcoming Pride activities, which will take place during the month of June. It is important that the School District of Beloit allows students to freely participate in any activity in a manner that comports with their free expression rights. It is equally important that the school district enforce its relative policies in order to ensure that students who wish to abstain from participating are not subjected to bullying or harassment and do not otherwise feel compelled to participate. The importance of public schools' stringent protection of their students' First Amendment rights cannot be overstated. When it comes to social, political, and ideological matters, public schools are charged with teaching students how to think and with avoiding teaching students what to think. I would like to applaud the school district for the many ways it allows students the freedom to explore and express their beliefs on on the important matters during the critical time in their personal development. The principles of open inquiry and free expression derived from the First Amendment to the United States Constitution serve as an important pillar of a well-rounded public education. These foundational principles are clearly reflected in the relevant body of the Supreme Court Supreme Court law. The First Amendment demands that public school students have a variety of ideas and information available to them, that students have the freedom to interact with and respond to ideas and information in ways that are not substantially disruptive to the learning environment, and that students are free to reject ideas and beliefs they do not hold. The important balance inherent in this body of law is what allows students to learn and freely express themselves in a safe environment. I urge the School District of Beloit to closely review its existing policies in advance of Pride Month activities to ensure they provide faculty and staff with the tools necessary to ensure a positive experience for all students where their First Amendment rights are honored and safeguarded. Furthermore, I ask that you consider issuing a School District of Beloit-wide communication that delineates the school district policies and plan for ensuring the maintenance of a safe learning environment that protects all students. Next, I have one from Angie. I am writing to you today out of the deep concern for recent attention given to two issues that impact our students, staff, and families, and I hope that you will stand together as a board in support of the diversity in Beloit. I have two daughters who have been students in the School District of Beloit since 4K and are now going to be a senior and sophomore. They have excelled in many areas, from being recognized for the Superintendent Award, letters in academics, theater, and orchestra. They have also struggled at times when they wouldn't be doing as well as they are without the talented teachers and kind students that they have met in the schools. Theater and fine arts are two areas I am very passionate about, and sometimes some of the most unique students who didn't feel like they fit in school found themselves and their success through these programs. The reality is many of the students they know have struggled with mental health challenges, and I am grateful for the support the district has partnered with community mental health providers to provide. Another marginalized group who are often associated with theater and arts are LGBTQ students. The statistics for mental health among LGBTQ students are shocking, and I'll share a few. My information is from the advocacy group called GLSEN. 68% of LGBTQ students felt unsafe in school. 31% were physically harassed, and 12% received some form of physical assault. 97% of the students surveyed still hear the very old negative use of the word gay and other homophobic slurs, and only 10% of these students had a supportive teacher intervene. 40% of LGBTQ students avoided school bathrooms, gym classes, and locker rooms, and 32% had missed at least one full day of school a month because of bullying. 30% of suicides are LGBTQ individuals, and greater than 50% of transgender youth attempt suicide. That's just a start, so I'm excited that the school district has flown the pride flag at Colac for the past few years. Unfortunately, due to a few complaints, the flag was taken down. Thankfully, the community came together in an effort to share their support, and it came back up. Why would we remove a visual symbol of support not only to our students but also staff and the families in the district? I am afraid that if we don't stand for something, what will we fall for? Our community deserves our support, and flying the pride flag in June does not hurt anyone. Thank you. Okay, this one is from Brittany. She's a parent in the district, and I'm writing to comment on two different issues. All of it comes back to keeping our students center and prioritizing what is best for our students. The first issue has to do with Pride Month, supporting our students and flying the pride flag. I thank all staff and school board members that work to ensure the SDB is a welcoming and inclusive environment for all students. It always makes me smile to see the district to go the extra step during celebrations like Pride Month, including with flying the flag. It is symbolic and important. It is disappointing that members of the public feel it necessary to take their negative energy and direct toward the district and ultimately our students. Why the symbol of the pride flag is important. From the 2020 study by Johns et al., LGBTQ plus young people are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers. The Trevor Project's 2023 U.S. National Survey on the Mental Health of LGBTQ young people found that roughly half of transgender and non-binary youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. While these stats are staggering and tragic, it is critical to note that LGBTQ plus young people are not inherently prone to suicide risk because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, but rather placed at higher risk because of how they are mistreated and stigmatized in society. So please continue to center students with all decisions, act in best interest of their mental and physical health, proudly show our district is a loving and inclusive environment, and do not be swayed by the negative few that constantly criticize and project their negative adult emotions and bigotry onto the district, thus directly or indirectly causing harm to our amazing students. Second issue, please continue to support and grow the Grow Your Own program. It is an absolutely fantastic investment in our students, alumni, staff, and thus community. My daughter's kindergarten teacher benefit from this program, and because of the district's investment in her education, she is able to pay it forward to classrooms of students every day. Again, the negative energy and attack from the very few in the community is a destructive distraction and drain of energy and resources. We have actual issues and problems to solve in order to continue to grow the most important investment a community could make, and in order support those fulfilling the most important role and job, our students and teachers. Please not only protect the Grow Your Own program, but also continue to invest in its growth. Thank you for your time. And the last one I have is from Jaden. Hello, my name is Jaden. I'm a past recipient of the Grow Your Own Scholarship. I recently graduated in May from Rockford University. I will be returning in the fall to pursue my master's in elementary education. Receiving the Grow Your Own Scholarship meant a lot to me. I couldn't be more grateful for being one of the chosen recipients. The beautiful thing about Beloit is the diversity that spreads around it and the opportunities that rise from that. I believe that all kids deserve to see teachers that reflect our community. GYO is a part of the solution, not the problem. That's all the public comment that I have.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. That brings us to agenda item 3A, the 2024 referendum consideration. And Mr. Chady and
I can start. Okay, sure. So thank you for President Johnson for allowing us this second conversation for the school district referendum and future planning conversation. First of all, let me just say that, of course, we've been in this conversation not just this month, and I know sometimes we may feel like this conversation has been going on for quite some time since I've arrived, but I do understand that that pressure that we have to kind of deliver this conversation is ongoing. And so we've been having a conversation around referendum. As you all know, on June 4th, we, of course, talked about, our election results from our last election. I'm not going to go through this entire presentation because this information is really already out there for everyone to see. Naturally, we had our referendum and, of course, some of our outcomes. Naturally, we were not successful at the polls. Of course, we had a budgetary conversation where we went through our budgetary constraints. And, of course, where we are right now at this time as a school district, of course, we still have a little ways to go to get to that balanced budget number. Before I proceed, I just want to make sure everyone is keenly aware that, as we work through our budget conversation, yes, we do have until that October date, but we're not waiting until October to continuously have these conversations. It is not easy to continuously shave budgets from a school district. As you all know, we had this conversation in 2022 when I first arrived here, and we had to make those same types of budget cuts. And so this is an ongoing budget cut conversation. We all know this is a funding concern, not just in the school district board, but across the state of Wisconsin. It is my job as the district administrator to make sure that we're all keenly aware that it is all of our responsibilities to come to a rational conclusion around where we should be in the funding conversation in the school district of Beloit. Naturally, as you all can see, operational referendums are not new to the school district. This graph we went over, of course, since 1990, you see over 86% of the districts going to operational referendum. That's a large amount. That's pretty much saying that the majority of our school districts in the state of Wisconsin has had this conversation around a need. Different needs across the state of Wisconsin. We have those same needs here in Beloit, where we are asking for that support, and it is very hard to continue down the road that we're on without the proper funding to support the education of our students. It's important to note that as we have had these operational referendum conversations and had to work through the cuts, we've steady had to maintain our enrollment. We have steady the ship as it pertains to increasing our academic achievement. We have made $10+ million worth of cuts. We have shifted our district from a K-5 to from a K-3 to a K-5 district, 6-8, and back to a 9-12 traditional system. All of these things we've done to show the community that not only are we making these changes for various reasons, but to show the community that we are trying to do what we believe is what the community wants us to do, which is show results. And under this administration's time frame over the past 17 months, I do believe we have shown a considerable amount of results that I believe our entire community can be proud of. I know that there's been conversations around some other themes here in our school district, but just by mentioning those simple facts that I just shared with you all have heard those before, one could rest their hat on some of those themes and really be proud of those moments. Again, as a district, we have worked extremely hard to make sure our community know that we are having success in our school district. Baird also put this information together here where it talked about what has passed and what referendums have passed in the state of Wisconsin since 2000, where you see a non-recurring and a recurring opportunity here as such. I highlighted when we went to referendum here in the past, and of course April has a 66.1% chance of passing since 2000, and of course November has during the presidential election has a 70.3 chance of passing. The November timeframe clearly shows that there's just, for whatever reasons, higher turnout and or a higher success rate in the non-recurring conversation. But if you look closely to that same left or right, you will see that same space represented across all statistics there. November being a space where, again, for whatever reasons, referendums have a little more success than April, February, or in August. Of course, we had our school perceptions survey, and again, I'm going through this real fast because we already heard it, and so I kind of kept a mental note about 4 or 5 minutes to do this before we get into the deeper conversation around when do we want to go to referendum. There were takeaways that you all have seen here. Approve, attempted, and a percentage again. And so the information is as such. I don't want to go through all that again. Future election dates. One of the things that we have had to contest with, our future election dates are very clear. If we do plan on going to referendum either in November and or in April of the following year, this slide pretty much shows when we have to make certain decisions. As it stands, if we do decide to go in November, we have to have our question ready by August. Pretty much, let's just say August. And if we go in April, we have to have our question ready by January. That's kind of what you see here on this slide. We further had a conversation in relationship to advantages and limitations of our either going in November or in April. So what you see here is a November snapshot, and of course the next slide shows an April snapshot. And we didn't try to be all-encompassing in this conversation because it was really geared for the board to have a discussion around, what do you think will be the better time to go? But as you can tell, some of the advantages are higher voter turnout, broader community engagement, aligns with a budget cycle, heightened public attention, statistically higher pass rate. And I'm not going to go through all of these. The limitations, voter fatigue, 3 consecutive elections that we would have to, compete against, competing priorities, a short period of time to develop a solution. Of course, have a shortened campaign, and as such, as you can tell here. In April, we have some advantages as well. Extended planning period time, focus on local issues. We can reduce a little bit of the voter fatigue. We can, of course, have more time to plan between the referendums. It's pretty much what we are, I don't want to say used to, because since I've been here, we went in April, and of course, we kind of understand that timeline, that time frame. The limitations are very clear as well, lower voter turnout. All failed operational referendums have been in April for the school district of Beloit. That's something that we would need to contest with. And of course, for whatever reasons, again, I don't have the specific answer for this, board members, but April seems to have a lower success rate in referendums, both in capital and in operational referendums. We did have the board, I did ask the board to participate in some lunch and learns, and I would like to thank the board members who were able to attend. We did a part 1 and then a part 2, Wednesday, June 5th, and of course, Wednesday, June 12th. That's a real quick overview of what we have already discussed. I do want this time to feel more board-led at this point, as it pertains to, how the board feels as it pertains to going to referendum in November and or in April. I know we've had some conversations about this, and of course we had a listening session as well, just to kind of hear people's, comments and thoughts. And I'd like to turn it back over to Board President Johnson for further discussion. Of course, Mr. Chady and myself are here to answer any questions that you may have, and of course my cabinet can participate as needed.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. Before I open it up to the board members, Mr. Chady, was there anything else you'd like to add?
Not at this point, since yours is a resource.
Thank you. Any board members have questions? Megan Miller?
Thank you. Thank you so much to our administration for putting this together, and I want to thank everybody who made our listening session possible on Wednesday. I hope we have many more, as was recommended, in a variety of formats. So I want to talk a little bit about, based on what we just heard tonight, what we heard Wednesday, and what we heard at public comment. I looked at some themes. Didn't have a ton of time, but somebody was kind enough to provide us copies of the comments that people were kind enough to leave. And I think we got really valuable feedback from people with a variety of perspectives, very valuable. And so I want to summarize my takeaways and then make a recommendation about how I believe we should move this discussion forward. I see a lot of people asking us to follow the data. We just got a recap of the data. Like, for example, we know that we have a more likely chance of this passing in November. Looking at data, like we just heard a comment this evening about looking at enrollment and things like that. Absolutely. Like, let's get it all out on the table and take a look at what makes sense. We heard a lot of people asking us to sort of show us the money. And Mr. Chady, please correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless of whether we go in November or April, we're going to be looking at a situation of having to deal with like multiple budget scenarios to answer any unknowns. So I think it would be beneficial for us to, just like we did last time, make sure we're clearly communicating scenario A, scenario B. And I think our administration did a great job of that last time, and I think we need to connect that information, right, to more voters. Another theme that I see emerging is more community engagement. We just heard several comments to that effect even this evening. And again, just that transparency with the budget. Somebody, for example, had recommended a third-party review, and of course we do that annually. Baird comes in and gives us that third-party sort of review of our finances. So just making sure people know that that's there and that that's a practice that is occurring. So my recommendation, because we don't really have to make a decision until August, I believe that we should behave like we are going in November. What that literally means from my perspective and the work that I am willing to do as a board member is I would love to get some dates on the calendar to do a variety of listening sessions in different areas of the community, particularly on our west side, because some feedback we've received is a feeling of disenfranchisement, and we need to face that head on and deal with that and make people feel heard and make sure that we're receiving their concerns appropriately. I also believe that we should get dates on the calendar where I, again, mentioned last time, I think we should buddy up. I think we should knock on doors, directly engage with people. And I think it's obvious that many of us up here have different groups of stakeholders who support us. And I think it's important for us to go representing as many groups as you can. Like, I think we need to pair up intentionally so we can show people that despite whatever differences we might have, we all have this shared goal of bringing our community together to support our children. Because as many comments mentioned in even just this packet that I'm holding up here, things will not get better until our community is willing to fund our ability to resource our staff and students with what they need. Lastly, what I would need some help from the district with as a board member is, while I am not in a situation at this moment where I'm a grandparent, I want a grandparent brag book about our district. I think our data and information was fantastic. Props to Monica and her team. Also, I want to be able to open up a book and be like, here's our strategic plan. Look at what's going on over here at Gaston and look at what our kids are doing. Like, everybody just about knows about our jazz band. Let's keep talking about that, but let's talk about beyond just kind of that surface level information that most people have, and let's give most people what most of our teachers and parents and families know is powerful and exciting in our district. So those would be my asks. And just to summarize, I want us to pretend like we're going in November, and if we can shake it, great. Let's decide to go in August. If we can't, because we're like, oops, we're not prepared enough, great, we'll go in April. 2, I want a calendar. Let's get all of us up here, out knocking on doors and engaging with people and getting out in the community and having those sessions. 3rd, I want my in my case, grandma brag book, so I can brag on our babies and really show people what's going on in our district. So thank you for entertaining my long comments. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Megan Miller. Tom?
Thank you. This idea of having another referendum, I know we've bandied about, and we're not going to make a decision tonight. I understand that. I keep looking at these same slides, and I'm not criticizing at all. They're relevant, but I've made these point outs before, these bare projections, and they are projections. I just want to reiterate, Beloit is a unicorn. We can't be lumped in with all these other statistics, and nowhere does it say anywhere that a referendum has failed except in ours district 3 times in a row. I mean, that's a huge thing to consider. And Dr. Garrison has said, and I think we as a board have said, nobody wants to go into a referendum to fail. I don't believe we're ready to pass one yet here in Beloit. I think there's a lot of work to be done. I do believe we do need the money, but I don't think it'll pass yet as of today, June 18th. It takes a lot of time and energy from staff to do these referendums. The board is a voluntary thing, and I do agree with Megan. Once we do have the answers to the public, I wholeheartedly thought the listening session was great, and there should be more of them. I just don't think that we're prepared at this time to ask. The voter fatigue, to me, is a very real situation here in Beloit, and I don't think they want to be hit up with another referendum in November. Thank you.
Amy Levy?
Thank you so much. I will be brief because a lot of what I would like to share has already been covered by Board Member Miller. I do definitely think that we should take advantage of the higher voter turnout and go back to referendum in November. I have a slightly different take on it, and thank you to my colleagues who were able to attend the referendum webinar and help me flesh out some of my thoughts around this. I think we should ask for a 4-year non-reoccurring referendum. And the reason reason I say 4 years instead of 3 years is that I want us to provide financial stability and security, predictability for our students for a class to go from freshman year to senior year. And I don't remember who made the comment, but while we're tracking freshmen through senior year, I think it would be incredibly important to also track second grade through fifth grade. With that financial stability, I want us to be clear about the progress that we were able to make over those 4 years with respect to our state report card. I know that that comes up in a lot of discussions, and so I think that the 4 years is going to be really significant. We can show the public the growth that our freshman class had from entering high school to exiting high school, and then our community can decide whether they want to try that experiment again. I think the listening sessions are definitely a critical component of this. We definitely want to hear back from our community about messaging for those that did not feel that they were able to support the referendum in the past. What are some items that would get you to a different space? And I would respectfully ask that those listening sessions are planned in advance so board members can make sure that we can accommodate those in our schedule. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other board members? Mr. Schneider?
I agree with Megan. I think we need to move forward as if we were going to referendum in November. If we wait any longer to begin even some of that process, we're going to run short on time. And like she said, if we get to that point and we're not prepared, we're not ready to move forward, we can always delay it. But we can't start in end of July, the beginning of August, and expect that we can get there on time. I agree the listening session was good. We need to have a lot more of those so that we can hear from everybody. I like the idea of town hall meetings and not listening sessions. At the last one, people asked for specific answers to questions, and unfortunately, we couldn't give them. And so that was kind of a downfall on that. I think it's somewhat of a dialogue that we need to have with the community as we go forward with those meetings. So I agree that we need to move forward even from tonight as if we were going in November, because we can always delay it later.
Thank you. Brian Nichols or Brian Anderson?
I'll jump in. I think I agree with what everyone said there, and I think we'll see it a little later in the agenda. With the potential of an ad hoc committee to address some of those concerns. I think having a mixture of a listening session versus a presentation session, we got to find the right mix of how do we get information out, but also take information in opinions and feedback. So, like I said, I think some of those comments will work out a little farther down the agenda tonight, but I agree with what everyone has said so far.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols?
It just hit me. I mean, I've looked over these slides multiple times since you first put them out, Dr. Garrison, and it's interesting that the percentage is a little bit less, but the number of referendums is like almost 8 times the number are ran in April than in November. So I think that takes me back to a comment that Board Member Anderson made last week. It's actually easier to move. It's probably going to be. It would be easier to move the numbers in April than it would in November. You got a smaller base of people, but if we get out and do our jobs, then it's more likely. I think we would have a better shot. In fact, the big referendum that was passed, the one in 2012, was passed in April. I know that was a capital referendum, but that was a lot of money, and it was passed in April, correct? Okay. So I would agree with Board Member Hanson that I think now's not the time. at this moment, we're not ready. Maybe we'll be ready in August, 1st of August, but right now we're not ready, I don't think. I don't think the people are ready.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chady and Dr. Garrison and everyone who came to the listening session and have weighed in on this. If there aren't any other comments or questions, we'll move on to item 3B, potential line of credit disbursement request. Mr. Chady.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the board tonight. As the board hopefully is aware, we have a line of credit in place with First Mid Bank and Trust. It's a $7 million line. The line is available to us. We can borrow the money and we have to repay the money by November 1st. However, the last date that we can tap or utilize the line of credit is June 30th. So between July 1st and whenever the district approves or holds our budget hearing for the 24-25 school year and thereafter, we can't enter into a new line and we can't borrow against our current line of credit. Bring this all up because we've been doing some cash flow forecasting. There's typically school districts hit low points in cash really 3 times of the year. One of them is mid-June. Happy to report that we made it over that hump easily. However, the next opportunity that comes up is in mid-September, which looks very questionable. And then we'll hit another low point in mid-November, and I'm not even worried about that one yet. So we're just kind of looking at that mid-September time frame, thinking that, boy, if we need to utilize our cash flow line, we need to execute that distribution here by the end of June. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just share a few numbers with you first and foremost. Looking at today's cash availability, this was as of the start of the day today, we had $18.5 million in cash available to meet our day-to-day cash flow needs. When I look at last year, summer of 23 cash outflows, the amount of money that left the district between now and essentially mid-September, it was $17.6 million. Based on the numbers, we're $900,000 to the good. That's a little tight for me. So today it was just another cursory review of cash. We did this back on June 10th. We did it again today. My business office team and I will gather on Monday, June 24th, and we'll get into the numbers a little bit more in depth to try to determine, is there a need for us to do a borrowing? Obviously, we'd prefer not to, but at the same token, the business office would like to be able to sleep at night come late August through the midpoint of September as well. You know, $900,000, it's not enough to even make a payroll. Our payroll is about $1.25 million, so $1.25 million. So if we, if trends were to follow what has, we would be okay. However, if we encounter some unexpected high expenditures, health insurance claims, we're self-insured. So we can have good periods, good weeks where we have very low claims come through, and then we can have really bad weeks when all of a sudden we get hit with $1 million+ in claims instead of like a $400,000 to $500,000 weekly claim. So to sum it up, really we're just looking for perhaps board authorization to utilize that line of credit, that $7 million line of credit, in an amount to be determined by Dr. Garrison and myself and the business office team. Not to exceed $7 million, obviously, because we wouldn't need to go that high. And honestly, if I were to look at, might we need to borrow, $1.5 million or $2 million just to have available for us if the need were to incur, I think that might be wise to do. Keep in mind that once we access that line here in late June, we're going to take on interest expense. We're going to pay interest on that until we repay the funds. We can invest the funds, put the funds in our savings account or municipal accounts and make 5% interest. However, the interest rates that we would be charged would vary. Would be no less than 6%, nor greater than 7.5%. So we'd have a 1 to 2.5% spread of interest expense that we would have to pay. The other point I would make is that if and when we determine as we go through the summer months and come out of the summer and approach that September timeframe, we feel comfortable that we have sufficient cash, we can repay the line of credit earlier too to help reduce our interest expense. I hate interest expense. I love interest earnings because I always want to make money for the taxpayers in the district and try to minimize the paying of interest to the financial institution. But at the same token, we need to have some certainty that we're going to be able to make it through this low point with some comfort. It's entirely possible that when the business office team gets together on Monday, we've got a number of different options that we want to explore, such as some grant claims. Can we do our timings in a more appropriate or timely structure so that we get our reimbursement dollars back sooner, because that then gives us cash and helps us get over that hump. There's also our debt service checking account that has about $3 million in assets in it. It's not a best practice to tap into that for cash flow needs, but there are districts that do it all the time. In fact, Beloit has done that regularly prior to my arrival. Something we talked about internally in the business office. Again, we'd probably prefer not to do that, but it might be kind of a saving grace that we could access, we could borrow from ourselves, so to speak, for a few weeks if needed, and then avoid the need to do the line of credit borrowing. So lots of options. I don't have certainty yet, but here's the kicker is that the disbursement request would require school board action. So that's why we're perhaps asking the board to consider a resolution or a motion this evening to approve a line of credit disbursement in an amount to be determined by Dr. Garrison, myself, if that's needed. And then we can certainly inform you as to how much if we do that. Please know if we don't do it, we're going to be tight. We're going to be watching it really, really close. It's going to be that close.
Thank you. Board Member Amy Levy has her hand up.
Thank you so much. If authorization is provided and the decision is made to borrow a modest amount of money with respect to our total budget, and those funds are invested for the time being prior to that lull in mid-September, as you mentioned, to mitigate the interest expense, how soon could those funds become liquid or pulled out of the investment arena if we did need them for the day-to-day operations of the district?
Same day.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Without any financial penalty?
Correct. Right.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Tom Hankins.
Mr. Shady, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. So with a resolution that yet is to be made, but you're looking for direction. Let me go back. You talked about $3 million being in. My current understanding is we have no debt service at this point, right?
We do have debt service. So we have debt principal and interest payments outstanding, both in Fund 39 and in Fund 38. So those debt service accounts, that $3+ million in assets that's sitting in that dedicated checking account, is supposed to be there to service those future debt payments when that time would come. We would have resources available to meet those obligations. So again, using of those funds for day-to-day operational purposes is not a best practice. It's not illegal. The district, a great example would be a year ago at this point in time, we had about $10 million in debt service funds, should have been in that checking account, that was in our general checking account. It got deposited in the wrong bank account. Was still earning the same amount of interest on our accounting side. It was reflected accordingly. It was just in the wrong bank account.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
so once we tap into that line, or you are given permission, we don't start interest on it until you or the district uses those funds or transfer them into our fund balance. And so and at your discretion, if we give you, are you looking for permission to use all $7 million? I know you said you wouldn't, and I know you wouldn't do it unless you absolutely needed to. So is that a blanket thing, or is it going to come back? Once you say we give you permission, then like in July you say, okay, we're going to take $4 million out.
Well, so let's back up a little bit. So we're seeking the permission of the board to access the line of credit in an amount to be determined.
Okay.
I would not foresee that amount to exceed $3 million.
Okay.
Probably less than that to some extent. The disbursement would occur on June 28th, which is the last Friday, last business day of the month. So you would withdraw, okay, so we tap into that line June 28th? Correct.
Not in July or August?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So
I understand.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That was a statement.
Board member Megan
No,
Miller?
go ahead, Dr. Garrison.
So let me just make sure we're clear about this request here. You know, we can't use what we don't have. Okay, let's make sure that everyone understands that. You know, we can't use what we don't have. The $900,000 is very close to us not having.
Correct.
Okay, and so I like to be, clear on certain things. So let's make sure that's, something that we all need to take in consideration. Secondly, when we are able to access these funds, we won't take what we don't need.
Correct.
So those are the two sides of the coin that the board needs to consider, that Mr. Chady so eloquently, went through. It's just my responsibility to make sure the board understands that we can't use what we don't have, and then when we are able to access the funds, we can't spend we can't overspend it. We won't spend what we don't need, and so that's how we operate in a school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say thank you so much for the additional explanation. I see no reason not to give permission. It sounds like we don't want to put our district in a situation where we can't meet our obligations. I think this is a reasonable request, and I don't want to cut off discussion, but I am willing to make a motion.
Brian Nichols? I'm sorry, Brian Anderson?
Yeah, so I just follow up with great explanation by Mr. Chady. It's exactly how that type of credit facility should work in real life. We're as a district, we're under the additional limitation of that other businesses that have a similar line of credit don't have, where there's a window where we can't draw on it. So his forecasting has to say, well, we might need a certain amount of money. But the reality is, and he has to draw that by, the end of June, but if by, July 30th, he said he updated forecast say we don't need it, he can pay it back, right? So there's an opportunity to minimize any additional or, costs that would have. And so I would be in full support of a motion as well.
Any other questions or comments? Would somebody like to make a motion on this?
Yes, thank you. I move to approve a line of credit disbursement in an amount to be determined by the superintendent and executive director of business services, if determined to be necessary, to support anticipated cash flow needs between July 1st and October 31st, 2024.
Before there's a second, I would love to offer a friendly motion to not exceed $4 million. I would like to have an amount there, and it seems like that would meet the needs as the projections are showing, unless I missed something there. Is that accurate, Mr. Chady?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
Let's see if you're willing to accept it.
I'm willing to accept if it works for our administration. And I'm seeing a nod.
We're fine with that.
That's beautiful, fully accepted. So then move to approve line of credit disbursement, not to exceed $4 million, if determined to be necessary to support anticipated cash flow needs between July 1st and October 31st, 2024.
Second.
Motion with the amendment to not exceed $4 million. Motion by Megan Miller, amended by Amy Levy, and seconded by Amy Levy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'm sorry, we have a request for a roll call.
Because it's a lot of money.
Sure thing. No, that's fine.
Sorry about that. Aye. Okay. Greg Schneider.
Aye.
Amy Levy.
Aye.
Brian Nichols.
Aye.
Brian Anderson.
Aye.
Tom Hankins.
Aye.
Megan Miller.
Aye.
And Tia Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. That brings us to item 3C, ad hoc committee conversation.
I'll start this off with the partnership with Mr. Chady again. And first of all, I would like to thank, the board for allowing us this second conversation again, not second conversation, this conversation as it pertains to some budget concerns that we have here in the district. One of the things that we've heard from the community in different ways is that, having more information about our budget is important. I understand that thought. Please note, I want the board to also understand that we have had numerous conversations about our budget, both with constituents in the public and in regular presentations. We've been super transparent as it pertains to where our budget is. Naturally, one could always argue, can you be more transparent? I mean, I always say, of course, you can be more and more and more. Communicating the numbers for our school district is not an easy feat. There's a lot of line items, a lot of stuff that we've tried to uncover and, of course, show to our constituents. The level of work that Mr. Chady does in his profession is an expertise that he brings to the table. That just needs to be noted. It's the same expertise that Mrs. Mortex brings to the table, that Mrs. Beavers brings to the table, that Mrs. Almendarez brings to the table, that Monica brings to the table, even that I bring to the table. And I'm not always asking people in the public to understand all of our expertise. But when we do bring you the information, we do want it to be bite-sizable so that we all can understand it. Now, some will like to spend more time in many different subjects and spend more time in many different areas, but it is our responsibility to make sure the information is clear. And so we had a conversation at our level as it pertains to the possibilities of having this ad hoc committee that's focused around our budget. And as everyone can see on board docs, it is to consider a potential ad hoc budget committee to review the district's budget as a whole, focus on referendum needs, and review budgetary information. The committee will consist of someone from the community, the BEA, teachers, parents, administration, and of course, the board. It is our goal to make sure that we have enough information out there for our public. Even if we weren't going to a referendum, this type of committee could be in place. And I think sometimes running these side by side of a referendum or not having a referendum has its benefits, because it allows people just to learn about, the ins and outs of a budget. In an ad hoc committee, of course, it is our goal to provide the public with information that they're requesting, and then naturally we would be a partner in this thought, but we wouldn't be leading the thought because this is what the committee is asking us to provide, and then of course we would bring that back to fruition. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Taylor to add anything that I'm possibly missing. Then, of course, I'll turn it back over to Board President Johnson for further discussion as pertains to our ad hoc thought. We also know that there's a policy that's on the document for this as well, but I want to take it a little step by step as we get there. Mr. Chady?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Garrison. So throughout my career, I've seen other districts do such transparency work, I guess is the best way to put it. And in fact, as a parent, back in the day, it goes back a couple of decades, I served on a task force for the school district of Fort Atkinson, and unfortunately that led to me becoming a school board member, and that led to me becoming a business manager, and here we are today. But nonetheless, trying to stay attuned to what's requested and what the talk is within the school district of Beloit, there seems to be a lot of interest, and rightfully so, about knowing where and how the school district utilizes our resources. Some may say we misappropriate, misspend. Some may say that we don't. You know, we don't need to get into that per se, but we have a $124 million budget, and I'm not sure that really people understand how and where that $124 million goes. And I think we have work to do there. This is hard work. This is ugly work, but it's also the right work. I've heard this talked about as far as a budget thing, and I'd like to kind of remove budget out of the equation, because to me, budget is our 24-25 school year, or then the 25-26 school year, you know, these upcoming school years. And I'd like this perhaps to be framed more as a financial transparency. Certainly, we're going to look at budget numbers. But another reason to move beyond the budget focus is, again, if we're looking at budget from a 24-25 school year, here it is mid-June, you know, we'll be bringing to you a preliminary budget in July. We'll have a final budget that the board will enact in late October. So that's like 4 months. I don't think 4 months provides us the time to do the financial transparency work that is expected and needed. So that's why I somewhat try to separate the two from budget to more financial transparency in looking at the bigger picture. You know, I talked about the hard work, the ugly work. The business office myself is more than happy to entertain this work because, again, it's the right work. I don't want to be part of the planning committee. I want nothing to do with that. I want to be told or requested, you know, the what, the when, the how, and we'll deliver. I don't want my fingers in there, but I think the right people need to be at the table to try to figure out how this process can work effectively for the school district of Beloit. You know, certainly citizens and members of the committee, whatever, need a process to ask questions. Hopefully questions come in advance. Hopefully that advance has like a 2-week window out so that the business office can do our homework, gather the information, and be able to then present it at whatever the next meeting is. Again, it's ugly work. My desire is that this planning committee, ad hoc committee, whatever that can help put this together, and I'll just use the term, you know, I want a shield for the tomatoes. You know, I don't need people throwing insults at me. I'm not here for that. I'm here to do the right work. So, you know, again, it's about the structure, making sure that the right structure is in place, make sure that the right people are at the table, make sure that we're talking about what needs to be talked about in a logical fashion that gets us to the end. I know we were talking a little bit earlier this evening about potential referendum timeframes, and again, if we're going to do the right work, I don't know that happens between now and August when the school board needs to adopt a question, and it certainly, you know, probably lingers even beyond a November election cycle, but it might align really well for April of 2025. Because again, in my mind, I see this as probably a 6+ month endeavor, and quite honestly, it may be something that lasts for a year plus. It's going to take a long time. A $124 million budget, and people just want to know. I mean, I've got board members that are asking questions. We certainly read about it in social media, and teachers, school staff ask about it as well. So we have a lot of work to do there.
Thank you, Mr. Chady. Board Member Amy Levy.
Thank you. I agree with what you said, Mr. Chady. Here is my concern. When looking at policy 186, ad hoc advisory committees, number 2, I'll read out loud. It says ad hoc committees are finite advisory committees formed to study specific issues and make recommendations to the board. Where I think we may have an issue with what you described in contrast with policy is the function of the advisory committee does not include oversight, directives to administration, or involvement in day-to-day operations of the district. So I'm not opposed to what you're describing, but it seems like that may not be in line with what our current policy is, because the budget is absolutely interconnected with the day-to-day operations of the district. And it seems like, per our current policy, that ad hoc committees are to study a specific thing and report back their findings to the board. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of how our current policy describes ad hoc committee formation.
Brian Nichols.
Thank you, Board President Johnson. I hear what you're saying, Bob. I agree with you 100%. You don't want to. You want the best for everybody, and so I think, and so do we, and so does the citizens of the state, of the city. I would like to recommend, and I'll make a motion if you'd like. I'd recommend that we move this to the Business Ops Finance Committee for the July 2nd meeting, and let them take it and work with you guys, work with everybody together, provide community members, BEA members, parents, teachers, etc. on the committee. It can't be too big, obviously, because then you kind of get, it gets more challenging the more people you get. But we've got an outline in this on the agenda item, which I think is a pretty good place to start. But I would make a motion that we move this to the Business Ops and Finance Committee for the July 2nd meeting.
May I ask a clarifying question before offering a second? I think that's a great idea. But if we do make that motion, can we have continued discussion on the topic, or are you asking Mr. Nichols to just let's just set into committee and have a discussion there?
I think we would always entertain discussion. Yeah. But,
yeah.
I
think that's a great
idea.
idea.
The committee has a little more history than everybody as a whole. Now, I'm not saying, I don't mean that demeaningly. No. But I just think, I've been sitting here through this discussion. I already think of a person or two that would be what I think would be but that's for the committee to decide. So. No,
that sounds great. Can I offer a second and then make a comment, Board President?
Okay, so we have a motion by Brian Nichols to move the ad hoc committee to the standing board of the Finance Business Operations Committee, and a second by Megan Miller.
And thank you. And then just a comment on that. Just like we heard a wonderful suggestion earlier regarding how we do our listening sessions and how there are a variety of formats, we heard both from speakers, and I think Board Member Anderson made some really good suggestions as well. In the past, we have, and it doesn't have to be this, but there are other options. Having been involved in, I think, our most recent ad hoc, which was to study language barriers in the district, we were in line with what Board Member Levy just delineated in the policy, but I know there also have been like superintendent advisories. There are a lot of different, and so kind of my question then goes to Dr. Garrison and to Mr. Chady. I love everything that I heard. I think this is a fabulous idea. Is there a way through our administration that could include the participation of board members that we set up like an advisory that wouldn't have the stipulations that an ad hoc committee has that's currently in policy?
Thank you, and I'd like to direct you to following Amy Levy's question and pointing this out. So a board ad hoc advisory committee is slightly different than a standing committee ad hoc committee. There's too many committees there. Where it sounds like, according to our policy, the standing, this is 186 Rule 1, number 2, parenthesis C, standing committee chair shall set the first meeting date. The superintendent or designee shall convene the first meeting and instruct each committee as to the specific charge of the committee and the service the standing committee wishes to render. So I think that addresses that issue.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me, but I think I would agree with Mr. Nichols, like this is maybe a discussion to have within the context of the committee, and I just wanted to put that into the space because I think our administration should consider also like what mechanisms that they have where we can pull all these different kind of options together to execute on what Mr. Chady just sort of outlined for us.
Okay, Brian Anderson, I see your hands up. Is that from before?
No, so I think I would certainly accept this into the committee, and I think, and Board Member Levy, that's a great comment that you made, and I think, Mr. Chady commented that if we said this was about the budget, which was where I would have come at this 3 weeks ago and said, hey, let's talk about the budget, which is a very finite thing, then I think it would fall under that. But if his comment today about, hey, this is about financial transparency, this may transcend our decision about whether or not to go to referendum in November or April, it could impact that and it could provide information that could help us make some decisions, but it's not necessarily designed to be started and completed with recommendations, before an August 27th deadline, so I don't, hopefully that would help fall us into policy better. Just my thoughts. So I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Board Member Amy Levy.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, I really like what Board Member Miller said. I don't see how this, I'm not opposed to what is being discussed. I don't see how this fits as an ad hoc advisory committee. And just to clarify, before you get to 186 Rule 1, you have to clear 186. And so the committee would be doing research work and reporting back to the board. It can absolutely go to the committee for further discussion, but it needs to be established by the full board. And we still haven't gotten around item 2, where it does not provide oversight, it does not give directives to administration, and it's not involved in the day-to-day operations of the district. So with those quote-unquote barriers in place, I think it would make sense to explore other avenues to create the thing that we're describing, because it doesn't seem like, looking at our current policy, it fits in the container of an ad hoc committee.
Any other discussion or question? Tom Hankins?
I just want to comment. I think we all know the intent of what we want to do, but kicking it back to business and finance is probably a good idea to more define what we want to do with that, whatever name you want to put on it, and the scope and who's going to be involved and the parameters on what it's advised. I mean, what we name it, ad hoc or what whatever, obviously it has its limitations. We're looking for community input and transparency. We all know the end result. Let's not get stuck in the mud. I think the idea of getting in, kicking it back to business and finance makes perfect sense to me.
Board Member Greg Schneider, I think you're the only one who hasn't weighed in yet.
I really like the idea of the committee as a way to make sure that we're providing the transparency and the information to the community that they're asking for, and as a group to really just look at that transparency piece as we move forward. Again, concerned with how we're going to meet policy with that, and if it is something that's an ad hoc, again, that's established by the whole board and cannot be by a committee. I can understand it going to committee to better define what this may look like, and then come back to the full board for approval and selection of members or approval of members on the committee.
Yes, thank you, and that's exactly what it says in Policy 186, Rule 1. Okay, so we have a motion by Brian Nichols and a second by Megan Miller. The motion is to have this go to the Finance Business Operation Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item 4, the consent agenda. Does anyone have a need to remove any of these items for discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve consent agenda by Megan Miller, seconded by Amy Levy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to our board member future dates. We have a regular board meeting on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. and a policy committee meeting Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. We, let's see. We have a request to go into closed session regarding the HR Employment Exhibit A. Oh, I'm sorry? Yeah, we had switched those two.
Thank you so much.
No problem. No problem. For human resources, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session for Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, to consider employment Exhibit A, specifically the resignation of a professional educator, and for the next agenda item, which is the response to legal claim, and this is 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G, to have a legal update, discussion, and potential action regarding the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty matter, and item legal advice on staff compensation issues, Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, Parent E, Parent G, to confer with legal staff on compensation issues.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure thing.
Okay, so if we make a motion that encompasses both 6A and 7A, we have to come back out and do an open session approval of Exhibit A, and I want to be mindful of our administration's time. So while I totally see the logic of lumping it together, do you think we could possibly just like separate it out so we could just get through HR and then go into like other closed session?
Dee Dee doesn't want to stay here all night.
I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but I do appreciate your consolidation thinking. I just want to be conscious of her time.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just go into closed session then. If I can get a motion just for the HR portion of that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Megan Miller, seconded by Amy Levy. Can we get a roll call, please?
Megan Miller.
Aye.
Tom Hankins.
Aye.
Brian Anderson.
Aye.
Brian Nichols.
Aye.
Amy Levy.
Aye.
Greg Schneider.
Aye.
And Tia Johnson.
Aye.
That passed unanimously.
Listen, there's nothing saying that can't go up, so. Putting it up.
That's exciting. Get a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, was that Joyce? When she was using the closed session because you thought that we were supposed to. I'm like, my bad.
Adorable.
I just want to move to go back to open. Forgot to do that.
Motion by, board member Megan Miller,